10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's Fluent Top 10s. What's up, people? We got a good show for you today. We have a couple of guests. We're gonna cover a bunch of stuff. So, first off, kicking off the show in a couple of minutes, Justin Henry is going to join us and give us some of his top 10 fantasy football plays. So it could be, I don't know, like waiver wire pickups. It could be, people to drop, people to trade for. So his top 10 things to help you win fantasy. So he's going to kick off the show in a couple of minutes. Then my co-host from Fluent and Chill, Hailey, is going to pop on. And we are both going to share first our criteria, as we always do, for why we're picking these top 10s. And the top 10 list this week that we're going to cover is top 10 greatest moments in sports, top 10 biggest stories in sports. You can kind of fit in whatever word you want to use, but it's a top 10 biggest things that mattered the most in sports. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to have my list that are important to me. Hailey's going to have the things that are important to her. But I want you guys, so the ones that are already in here and viewing, and I'll say it a couple of times, I want you guys to either send in a super chat, or I'll put in the link kind of halfway through the show and have you guys jump on and tell me what your 5 biggest stories in sports history are. Now, you can tell me 1, you can tell me 2. To keep it short, let's maybe keep everybody just tell me your 1. And it doesn't have to be the biggest. It doesn't have to be your number 1 on your list. But like if there's one that we missed, if there's one that you think maybe doesn't get enough, recognition for being a top show or a top story in sports, share that. All right. So we've got a couple of minutes before Justin is joining us. So we'll bring on Hailey quickly. Hailey. Are you there?
Hi, Fluent.
How's it going?
Uh-oh, I think you might be muted. How are you?
I'm good. No, I can hear you. So before, we're not going to do the biggest stories yet because we're going to bring in.
Guys, can you hear Fluent?
Everybody can hear me. Can you not hear me? All right. Why don't you jump out and come back in?
Okay. I'll be back.
All right, Hailey's going to jump out and come back in. We're going to so what I want to do for Justin's sake, if you have fantasy questions, start off with your fantasy questions first. So start with your fantasy questions first. So that way, once Justin jumps on here in a couple of minutes, we can jump into those fantasy things right away. I will let Hailey know that we all could hear her. She just couldn't hear me, which maybe is a good thing. So fantasy football questions, get them in the chat now so we can go over those with Justin. And then we're going to kick in our top 10 stories, our biggest stories of sports. Actually, while we're doing that, why don't you start in the chat too? Either your fantasy football questions and maybe some of your biggest stories. So Justin should be here any minute. Let's see if we can get the best 2 starting wide receivers. Okay, let me star that. I don't even know. Do you guys play fantasy football? Yeah, I'm buying a little time. I got 1 minute before Justin gets here. In the PC Gridiron, I'll just give you an update. I'll give you this. You guys want to know the standings in the PC Gridiron Bowl? There's only 2 undefeated teams. We're only 3? We're only 3 questions in. We're only 3 questions in, or sorry, 3 weeks in, 3 questions. We're only 3 weeks in, and there are only 2 undefeated teams left. It's PC Gridiron. We know our football. So here are the standings, starting from the bottom. Trent, you'd think Trent, with all those interviews of NFL players, you think Trent, he is last at 0-3. G-Baby at 0-3. Who's this? Bama 1-2. Tegan 1-2. Their teams kind of stink. Trey is 1-2. Dub
2-1. 2-1. His only loss to me. Dub 2-1. Nick Dawson is at 2-1. Ben, Big Ben, Block Boys is 2-1. And the only two undefeated teams, J Rob and me, Fluent. Both are 3-0. This week, I'm going against the 0-3 Trent. So that should be an easy win. All right. So it looks like, sometimes you have technical difficulties and your guests don't show up on time. So we're going to jump right into my list of top 10 greatest moments in sports history. So here we go. Top 10. Now, let me just tell you, my criteria when I look at this is either their significance globally, their significance nationally, their significance to me personally, and then, through research and like whether it be views, impact on other people, stories written about them. So things that kind of happened in the world. So at number 10 for me is the Miracle on Ice. So for those of you that don't know, that was 1980. The U.S. hockey team unexpectedly defeated at the time, the Soviet Union. It was a huge deal in the Winter Olympics. No, they were the underdog. No one personally thought that was going to happen. It really sparked, even though hockey still isn't big in America, it did spark an interest, and it affected the world globally because everybody thought, right, no one's beaten the Soviet Union, especially the U.S. Lake Placid, and they make a huge impact, and they win the gold medal. So that's number 10. Number 10, the Miracle on Ice. Now, we're going to pause because our guest, Justin Henry, is here. I'm going to tell you once he jumps on where you can find him, but we're going to get his top 10. Like I said, top 10. I hope it's fantasy advice. It might be waiver wire pickups. It might be trade. And I'm going to add, I think we only got one fantasy question in. So Justin, man, how you doing?
Fluent, what's good, bro? How you living?
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, you fine, bro. This sounds good. Amazing audio quality as always, my brother.
All right. Well, we had the other guest there said she couldn't hear me. Everybody could hear her, but
it was some on her side. I'm blaming her, man. She needed to upgrade her top 10 audio equipment. That's what she really needed to do.
That was not, that was probably 11 on the list of top 10 headphones. So we're doing top 10 greatest moments in sports history, but it's very, very important. Fantasy football.
Yes.
You know why you're my favorite? Because like almost every time I see you, you're either wearing a Laker hat or a Raptor hat.
Hey.
And being from Toronto and being a Laker fan, I'm a fan of the hats.
I got to roll with the winners, baby. The Los Angeles Lakers rolling with the winners, baby.
Yeah, well, this year's the year, as always. There could be a parade in my city. So do you have your top 10 list before we get into it? Is it just overall things you need to do to win? Is it waiver wire pickups? What did you put together for us this week?
I went through waiver wires because this is one of the weeks where I think there's a lot of people on waivers, and it's week 3 or week 4 of the season. A lot of people, there's some teams that are 0-3, some that are 3-0. So I wrote down some names for 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues. I'm going to go through 10 names that I think people just need to keep an eye on or add on waivers tonight because a lot of waivers process tonight. So I'll give some names, my advice on them. A lot of people don't like my takes because they're not consensus, but I'm going to give you something else to think about when I drop these names. So it'll be a top 10 list of waiver players that are probably on waivers in various leagues and my thoughts on them.
All right. So in my league of record, I'm 2-1.
Okay.
And it took the highest score of the week to beat me in that one. And in our PC one, I'm 3-0. But hey, you can always get better. I can if I take someone off my bench and put in one of these guys, because I'll tell you this, I won a close one last week, and the reason I won a close one last week was because I didn't listen to the consensus who said bench Jerome Ford. I listened to you who said Jerome Ford, and that was the extra points that I needed. So thank you.
Sometimes it pays to be like, because I've been playing fantasy for well over 20 years now, and it's like this is one of those things. Some people get addicted to things. This is one of those things I get addictive and compulsive about, but I'm really good at it too.
Oh, hey, it worked. Now I'll be calling you up and letting you know. I used to have Adam Rank on, and he gave me some bad advice because we're both Chicago Bear homers, and you never trust a Bears fan. And he lost me my week, and I said, "That's it. You're cut off."
Hey.
Still love you, Adam. Just playing. All right. So So you want to start at 10 and work our way down?
Let's do 10. Yeah, we can work our way down.
All right. Don't go through it quickly because I might have a question on that player.
Oh, I'll go through, give a little 30-second, 1-minute spiel on each player, and then let you fire back at me. All right.
Perfect.
All right, number 10. This is a player that a lot of people saw on the screen, but he didn't have a lot of fantasy points. Rashee Rice, or Rashee Rice, however you want to say his name, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, that's a player we are familiar with, and obviously with the Chiefs, they have a lot of places they can go. Travis Kelce's number one. They got Kadarius Toney, who's dropping everything in sight. Sky Moore, who seems to be in and out. MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who's more their deep play guy. But Rashee Rice is starting to fit in as a guy who's getting looks. And one of the places he's getting looks is in the red zone. We saw 2 touchdowns that were should have been touchdowns right at the 1 yard line, half-inch yard line, whatever you want to call it. But listen, this is a guy that, as a rookie, second-round rookie for this team, has a lot of upside, and you could probably get him for free because he didn't score a touchdown. Some of the other players on this list are going to have to pay a little bit more, but Rashee Rice may go a little unnoticed in some of these leagues. I would say 12-team leagues, this is a pickup.
Let me ask you, because look, if you have Travis Kelce, you're starting Travis Kelce. That's not what I'm going to go with. Do you feel like could he be a little bit distracted now, and maybe a guy like Rice or something is he going to pick up a little because he's a little
I give zero thought to that other stuff on the side. I am not interested at all. I don't know what the hype's all about. At the end of the day, Travis Kelce, I know that's a dog out there on the football field. So
all right. So
you can swiftly miss me with that.
All right, fine. So Rice, because there was a couple. And you're right, because I was like, oh yeah, he's in my head. I was like, no, he scored a couple of touchdowns, but you're right, it was close. So he's there. He's going to punch some in. I'll wait to ask my other Kansas City question because he might be on your list. So I'll stop. All right, so that's number 10.
I have no other Kansas City players, so you might as well get it out now.
Are we buying or selling Pacheco? I don't say anyone's name right.
Yeah, it's cool because I got a name that I've called a couple people, but I'm gonna keep it clean on the Fluent show. I'm gonna keep the top 10 list clean and not say any 2 words that might piss some people off here. But he don't catch the rock, and it's hard for him to score a touchdown. So I think players like that in fantasy are tough for me to trust. I put him at RB3 range. In your standard leagues without points per reception, they're a little bit easier to roster, a little bit easier to start. But players that don't catch 3 to 4 catches a game, they're not getting a whole lot of goal line looks. It's tough for me to put him in there. He's more of like a 6 to 10 point guy. RB3 range for me on Pacheco.
All right, so Pacheco, that's a no. All right, number 9.
Number 9, this is a guy who played well last week. He missed week 2 with the concussion. He got drilled in week 1. Jacoby Myers. Now he shouldn't be out there on a lot of free agency, right? Unless you're in a more shallow league, 8-team league. But Jacoby Myers is fitting in like the wide receiver 3 conversation in PPR leagues. This is a guy that Jimmy G trusts. And we know Jimmy G doesn't really spread the rock around. They have Devontae Adams. Next up is Jacoby Myers. And he was making some spectacular catches out there on Sunday. We saw him in that game against the Steelers. Even though there was a couple that he didn't bring down, he was still able to haul the ball in. And so in fantasy, we like guys who get consistent target, consistent work. And when Devontae Adams has a tough matchup, Jimmy G feels comfortable leaning on Jacoby Myers. I think this is a name we all probably think, oh, this is just another guy because of his time in New England. But with the Raiders, he actually has some real fantasy value. So I've never really been in on Jacoby Myers. He don't score a whole lot of touchdowns, but I think he has some value this season as a wide receiver 3, especially in PPR leagues.
Okay. What? Josh Jacobs can be okay.
Josh Jacobs is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. They were trying to get him involved in the ground game. I trust Josh Jacobs.
Right.
He ain't the top 5 guy he was last year, but if you can get him as like an RB1, he's still RB1. Back end.
Number 8.
Number 8. So this is a guy I liked coming into the year. A little short guy. Josh Downs from the Indianapolis Colts. He's a 3rd-round pick, a rookie wide receiver. He had 12 targets in the game on Sunday. And this is a guy that I like. He plays out the slot, but Anthony Richardson tends to lean to his slot receiver. He had a high percentage of throws that went to the slot receiver in college, even though he didn't play a lot in college. This is just a tendency he had. And we saw him with 3 catches in back-to-back weeks in week 1 and week 2. enter Gardner Minshew, and now we saw 12 targets for Josh Downs. A very fine day in the air. Listen, this isn't a guy that's going to score 6 to 8 touchdowns, but what he is he's a yardage guy. He's a guy you can get for free. During bye weeks, when you're looking for players, this might be one of those consistent guys you could throw in your lineup. He gets you 4 or 5 catches for 60 to 80 yards with a potential score. So I think at some point he'll score a couple touchdowns on the year. Reminds me a lot of like what Chris Olave was last season, where maybe not at the same scale, obviously, like an 800 to 900 yard receiver, 3-4 touchdowns, probably in the 50 to 60 catch range for Josh Downs at least. Number 8, I think he's good value right now on free agency.
So let me ask you a question there. Does his value drop when AR-15 is there? So is he still a play with because I went heavy running back, wide receiver, and I saved the QB, and I have AR-15 is I forget who my other quarterback is. As a Bears fan, I hate to say I have Jordan Love, who did
Hey, he's playing well,
just fine. Yeah, just fine for me. It's hard for me to root for him though. I'm not going to lie, but I picked my quarterbacks late, so I have AR-15. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to rush. He's going to get some rushing touchdowns, that sort of thing. Right. But how much does Downs drop when he's starting versus Minshew?
It's not necessarily that Downs drops; it's the ceiling, right? With Minshew, he's not running, so we know a lot of it's going to be volume in the passing game. But the ceiling drops for Josh Downs. Now, instead of a 12 target ceiling, you're probably more in a 6 to 8 target ceiling. You're hoping for a deep shot. You're hoping for a touchdown for that like really big fantasy day. With Minshew at quarterback, though, things open up a little bit. They can pass it a lot more. I think with Richardson, you're just limiting the ceiling. I still think he's at least a 6-point floor type guy, 3 catches for 30 yards. But you don't get that like true upside that you would with Minshew, which is kind of weird to say. Right?
I know we don't have you for too long, so I'll stop asking questions and we'll go through them a little bit quicker. Number 7.
Number 7's another familiar name, and I don't think he's available in a whole lot of leagues, but I've seen this question come in a lot. Adam Thielen, and this is a guy that I would spend a good amount of fab on, like 10%. I don't spend a whole lot of fab early in the year because it exponentially gets more valuable as the season goes on, right? When you start to use those fab, when your players go down in week 13, it's much more hurtful for your team than it is early on in the season. So I like spending about 5% to 10% max on players. This is a player, Adam Thielen, can go comfortably in your lineups as a wide receiver 3.
Sure. He had a big week if you got him last week. Number 6.
Number 6, big play machine. We're starting to call him a big play machine, and I think there's going to be more opportunities in this Denver Bronco offense. Marvin Mims, also a name that a lot of people probably won't be on. He scored a touchdown in the special teams game. I think it was kick return. Nice long kick return for Marvin Mims. But he's turning into this big play guy for the Broncos. So he doesn't have a whole lot of PPR appeal, and he's not going to catch 5-6 catches a game. But this is a guy that has explosion in the special teams, and then also like they're taking deep shots with him. So I like Marvin Mims as a pickup in like 14, 16-man leagues, some 12-team leagues, but he'll be very inconsistent, not a true PPR threat, but has big play potential.
So let's say, okay, whether it's PPR, half PPR, non-PPR, but like he's a guy that maybe flex him on a bye week, hope he gets 150-yard touchdown, and you're like, hey, take those 11, 12 points, be happy, right?
Yes, exactly. During bye weeks, you kind of got to get in your bag a little bit, and you got to take those games where maybe the players don't explode for a whole lot of points. But this is a guy that, hey, you put him in there, he might have a 15, 20-point day one week, 152 yards on like 2 or 3. Russ, we know Russ likes to throw the deep ball. So 2 plays from Russ, that could be 15, 20 points.
All right, number 5.
Number 5, I wanted to throw a tight end in here as well, right? Obviously, like we got all the receivers, running backs, and I have plenty more of those guys. But I want to talk about Luke Musgrave real quick. Luke Musgrave has been a tight end that I think you can get him in deeper leagues, and he won't play like 6 catches for 88 yards every week. That's not who he is. But Jordan Love's looking his way, and he's had 2 touchdowns over these first 3 weeks just over his outstretched hands. And we know how valuable those looks are, right? If you're getting targeted downfield, especially as a tight end, it can lead to big play opportunities there. So I think Luke Musgrave, when tight end is it's trash right now, Tony. Like it's trash. Like it's trash. It's trash. So Luke Musgrave's a guy that can fit in as like a top 15 tight end, and you'll be good. So I don't love spending a whole lot on him, but at the end of the day, I think there's some value there.
Okay. Number 4.
All right, number 4, we're starting to get into like the hardcore waivers. These are, I think, the top 4 players that people are looking at. Number 4, I'm going to put Quentin Johnston. And this is a guy, San Diego Chargers. We saw Mike Williams, unfortunately, go down. He tore his ACL. He's going to be out for the entire year. So it sucks to see that for this offense. There's a lot of expectations, high expectations within this offense. You bring in Kellen Moore. Justin Herbert's finally healed. You see Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, both healthy at the same time. But Quentin Johnston's a guy, rookie, first-round rookie, big play potential out of TCU, 6'4", big body, kind of reminds you a little bit of Mike Will. And so for me, this is a guy long-term, the fantasy playoffs, if things start clicking, this is a guy that could have more value at the end of the year. You got him on your squad? Hey, nice pickup there. Nice pickup. Hey, Fluent, I know you. Nice pickup.
I'm not 3-0 for by accident. All right,
it's a good pickup, but I think it's going to take him a while as a rookie to like really get up to speed.
Well, I thought I'd stash him, and I thought maybe later on in the season, the injury again. You never want to see an injury, but the injury, I think moves that time frame up a little bit. All right, then we're going to get to the top 3.
Another one.
All right, number 3.
Top 3, baby. All right. Number 3, I'm going to put Tank Dell. This is a guy, we saw him and Stroud got that, you know what I'm saying, left foot, right foot thing, whatever it is. I understand the hype for Tank Dell, but this is an offense. The Texans offense, I mean, they've been throwing the football a lot over these first 3 weeks, and CJ Stroud has looked phenomenal. So if things keep up, I can see Tank Dell being in that flex range. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to have to overpay for what Tank Dell is because he had a 70-yard touchdown. So I kind of want to slow the hype a little bit on Tank Dell. I understand it's easy to get excited about fun players like Tank Dell. Kind of came out of nowhere with strong showing in the preseason. But I think Tank Dell is a guy that I like. I wouldn't overspend on. I think that there's, some of those players go through waves. Ask him.
I'm in a deeper league, and I'm really good at running back. I could use a wide receiver. I floated out the idea of Jerome Ford because I'm deep at running back, and I have Alvin Kamara coming back now after his 3-week suspension. So Jerome Ford for Tank Dell. Was that a good deal?
I think it's a wash, right? PPR, I think I'd rather have Tank Dell because I think Jerome Ford is part of a committee there in Cleveland, but it's a decent deal.
I offered it. I was trying to be fair because he's heavy at wide receiver and he's a running back. I'm heavy at running back because I always try to trade from what I need, what you need, so it's kind of at least makes sense for both parties.
Yeah.
All right, number two.
All right, here we go. Number 2. We only got 2 left, and everybody's expecting one name. I'm gonna say that name at number 2, Devin Achane. Achane, right? Obviously, the 50-point game in PPR leagues. Devin Achane obviously broke out in a major way, but that entire Miami team broke out. We saw
70 points.
Exactly. Like when he scored 70 points, and a lot of what Devin Achane did was in the second half anyway. 2 really, really long runs. I get it. The kid's a speedster, and he looked even explosive in the first half. I'm not trying to knock what he did. But as a guy in a backfield that's a committee, Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, Salvin Ahmed when he comes back, Jeff Wilson Jr. is expected back off of IR in week 5. Plus the team throws. Jalen Waddle was out for this game. Like there was a lot of missing components to this Dolphins team that put up 70 points. I just don't see it being something consistent. So there's a lot of people saying go spend all your waiver bucks on Devin Achane. Use your top priority. I don't subscribe to that. I think he'll be a good player, not great player. He's not an RB2. He's more of a flex option in deeper leagues.
Okay. I do like that track team though in Miami. They give everybody a run for their money in a relay. But all right, so this is number 1. This is number 1.
Let's go. Who's number 1?
Number 1, baby. Joshua Palmer. Palmer, baby. This is a guy that, we talked about Mike Williams going down and Quentin Johnston has the upside. Joshua Palmer is the floor. He played well last year when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were both hurt. We saw him put up wide receiver 3 numbers. This is a floor play. So you're mentioning not having receivers. This is a person to go get that you can start comfortably in your lineups week in and week out. Maybe you think about what Mike Williams was and you slightly tear it down a little bit. That's Joshua Palmer and even more on some weeks. I think he'll be a good part of this offense, a vital part of this offense that's been looking to air it out. So I like Joshua Palmer a lot. He'd be my number 1 target.
All right. So Derrick Henry going to be okay?
I don't know about that. My last name Henry. You call me the king, but I don't know about Derrick Henry. That turf toe is real. I think it's going to take a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks.
All right. I'm going to give you some rapid fire. I know you got to go. First off, where can everybody find you? obviously I know because there's YouTube. I see you live on TikTok all the time. You never respond to me. I'm in the chat there, but whatever.
I never see your stuff, bro. It don't pop up.
You're always looking at the YouTube because you're bouncing back and forth between the two, and my timing's just off. But I'm going to rapid fire some questions. But where can they find you? Where are your stuff?
Justin Henry with the 3 instead of an E. But you can find me on the Justin Henry Show. I'm live daily on the YouTube. So YouTube is called the Justin Henry Show. Actually, this came out a fire intro. I'll have to show it to you, Tone. But yeah, it's crazy, bro. So
better than mine.
It might be.
My game.
It might be. I ain't gonna lie. It might be.
The lab. I did that myself. So
see this. I got artists to do it.
We'll talk later.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry. Yes, Justin Henry Show on YouTube, and it's Justin with a
3 instead of an E. Yep, Justin Henry with a 3 and an E. Yep.
Same thing on TikTok.
Same thing everywhere, bro. On YouTube is Justin Henry Show. Everywhere else, Justin Henry 3 instead of an E.
Okay. Quick rapid fire. Here we go. Irvin K. 2 best starting wide receivers.
You got to go Jettas. He's number 1. Tyreek. Jettas and Tyreek. I don't think you can say it any other way. 2 best receivers. That's them right now in fantasy. Oh, that's a good question right here. So a lot of people are concerned.
What should you do with Jeremy Gibbs?
Jameer Gibbs. He's actually.
Listen, I've said this. I can't say Mrs. Fluent's last name right, and I've known her since we were 4 years old. So just.
Yeah, I say names wrong all the time. I'll actually say the whole player's name wrong. I'll be talking about Devontae Smith and say Devontae Adams. So
well, there you go. All right.
You good. Jameer Gibbs, bro. The upside's crazy, right? But he's a rookie. So I think if you have Jameer Gibbs, you have to hold on for better days. If you sell low right now, you're going to miss on the ceiling in the second half. So we've seen this with rookies before. Sometimes it takes them a while to get acclimated to the NFL game. And I think when David Montgomery got hurt, everybody was like, oh, man, this is the time now. Jameer Gibbs, he's going to take off. Sometimes it takes rookies time to get acclimated. I think in about 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about Jameer Gibbs in a whole different way. I would hold in PPR leagues.
So if I can get him, if I could buy low.
Oh, yeah.
I should target that? Okay.
Buy low, buy him as like a back-end RB2. I wouldn't pay pre-draft prices for him.
Right. And also DeAndre Swift. Should we sell DeAndre Swift early?
It depends on what you get for Swift, because what you're waiting on with DeAndre Swift is the inevitable. I mean, I hate to say it, but he's been an injury-prone player over his career. That's really the only downside with DeAndre Swift in this offense as it is right now. He's been great in these last 2 games, but the only thing is, it really is still a timeshare with Kenny Gainwell, who had 15 touches yesterday. It's not like he didn't, or was it 2 days ago? No, it was yesterday. 15 touches on Monday Night Football. That's still, and he was coming back from an injury. So I know there's a lot of excitement about the way DeAndre Swift performed. He looks like the lead back now, but I think Nick Sirianni is going to go with the high end no matter what.
Okay. He's Justin Henry, the Justin Henry Show. Justin Henry, a 3 for the E.
Yeah.
On your socials. Those were the top 10 pickups in waiver wires for fantasy football. We're going to have you back again sometime later in the season. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All good.
All right. So those are your fantasy pickups. I got another super chat we're going to talk to. We're going to bring up here in a second. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring it up now, and then we're going to bring up Hailey and go through our top 10 list, because I don't even know what this means. Akeem, tell me, what do you mean? Not going to lie, these clips that have dropped of your takes have been garbage. Which ones? I don't clip them. I don't know what the hell they say. Tell me which ones, and I'll prove to you that they're not garbage, because you're probably just taking them out of context. All right, so we got top 10s. Now, can you hear me?
I can now, Fluent. And speaking of garbage takes, I think the one that everybody was like crazy about was the like divorce analogy. That was the one that people keep talking to me about.
I don't even know that one. What's that? I don't even know. What is that one?
Where you said the Golden State Warriors were in a dynasty because they were divorced.
Oh, yes. Once they miss the playoffs, the dynasty's over.
But
yeah,
people
absolutely.
don't agree with you. That's just and I told you that. I said, this is just not how dynasties work.
You know why? That's because no, let's be clear. That is how dynasties work, but people don't want to admit that the dynasty is over. Fans, you being one of them, don't want to admit that it's over, but it's over. People that are going against them don't want to say, oh, we lost to this team. No,
right.
we lost to the dynasty. Like when LeBron lost to the Spurs in 2014, oh, they lost to the Spurs dynasty. No, they didn't. The Spurs dynasty was from like 99 to 2007, because after that, the five years passed before they went to the finals again. They got knocked out in the first round multiple times in that 5-year stretch. Your dynasty is over. Now, yes, the players remained in terms of Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, but they were all now in their mid to late 30s, which anybody else would say, oh, it's because they were washed. They were old. You know, Kawhi Leonard was still a baby. The dynasty is over, because a true dynasty is like three wins, 3 finals wins in a 5-year stretch. That's where you're a dynasty, not anything else. So again, for the true definition of dynasty, once you've missed the playoffs, you're done. Like the Lakers dynasty with Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
Did that continue with Kobe and Gasol? No, it ended, and then a new chapter began. You can't say, because there was years that passed where they weren't in the finals. So that's my definition of it. If that's the one, then
yeah, that's the one. And honestly, like, one, you contradicted yourself, because you just said the Spurs dynasty was from 97 to 2007. When how many times?
99 to 07. They won. There was a stretch, I forget the years, maybe 99 to whatever, where they won. Was it 3 in 5 years, something like that? Whenever they won 3 in 5 years. That was their dynasty stretch.
And how can you say the Warriors aren't a dynasty?
They were, until they missed the playoffs, and then they lost.
Then a new one started, and that was just the end.
Now it's just, now if they were to win, what did they win 2 years ago?
Yeah.
If they were to win again this year and again next year, so that's 3 in 4 years, or in 2 years from now, 3 in 5 years, then yes, that's a separate dynasty. That's a separate dynasty. Because guys, here's the thing. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in players, right? Like in that first one, it's Curry, Clay, Draymond that win 1. But then it's Curry, but then it's really Curry, Clay, Draymond, and KD that win the other 2. And that's a dynasty.
That's just adding a player to the same dynasty.
It's making that. And then they miss the playoffs. They have some injuries, right? Whatever. They don't do. A couple years go by, and now it's Wiggins. Like Clay's not the same guy.
It's still Clay, Draymond, and Steph, though.
But it's not, right? Because now Wiggins was the second best player in that playoff run. So it's a different dynamic. So again, for me, you can say, you can stretch it. I'm very much of the mindset that your dynasties are when you win. Like, so the Spurs, every year Tim Duncan was there, they made the playoffs and won 50 games. So people are going to say, well, that whole stretch is a dynasty.
The Warriors have gone, Steph has been the best player and shot however many threes, you know?
Right. And for me, that's great, and it's an amazing run. But for me, a dynasty is winning. So if you don't win, and it's not that the other definition or what you're saying is wrong. That's okay. I respect what you guys are saying. Just for me, I'm Hartford. You know that. I don't want to retire any numbers. I don't think half the people should be in the Hall of Fame. I know that I'm strict. All right.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've got your your boundaries for what a dynasty is. So it was worth.
It's still a great run. Still, I'm not knocking them. No, I love it. So top 10 greatest stories in sports. I gave my criteria already. For those that weren't here and didn't hear it, and then what I'll do is I'll go through my list, give your criteria, you go through your list, and then we're going to invite the people on, and they're going to probably complain about dynasties versus the list, but who cares? We'll talk about whatever you want.
All right.
So my criteria is impact globally, or impact nationally, impact to me personally, and then how big of a story was it, like, especially if it was old, like in the newspapers, on the radio, now on the internet, clicks, whatever, how big of a story it was. Or I'll even, because there's one on here I know wasn't an international story, but like, as far as, if you're an Olympic, a person who watches the Olympics, and the way that it made, I was just like wowed by it. That's why it's on here. Like, it's not a big global story, but it's on here. So my number 10 was the Miracle on Ice. So I shared that earlier, which was in 1980, Lake Placid, Team USA going into the gold medal game against the Soviet Union in hockey. Everyone said they were going to lose. 80, it was around the year you were born. Everyone's like, they're going to lose, and Miracle on Ice. That's why they call it that. And Team USA wins. So that was number 10 for me. Nice. Number nine, that cheating son of a beep, Diego Maradona, with his infamous handball, the hand of God, they call it, where he punched the ball in in the FIFA World Cup to win, and he cheated. He hit it with his hand.
And no one, no, we're yeah.
You can go back and watch the tape. It's clear.
No,
So
I know.
you know this one? Okay, you know that one. Okay. So that's number 9, the hand of God
Okay.
from. That was 19, I want to say 86. There's going to be some new ones. But let's go back even further, because I think in the year that this happened, and subsequently, like the fact that it's been 104 years since this happened.
Oh no.
104
Wait,
years.
what sport?
Baseball.
Okay.
And it's still a thing, and I still think it's something that happens. Let's just be clear. The Black Sox scandal. So when the White Sox conspired in their involvement to fix the World Series, right? Huge black mark on baseball. Huge. Again, we still talk about it, and I'm telling you, Angie Carr got it right away. 1919 World Series. She did the math.
Angie on point.
Angie's always on point. Number 7. Now, for those ones, right? I didn't have to explain the significance.
Yeah.
And for number 7, I don't feel like I need to, but I'll do it anyways, just a little bit, because we are a little strapped on time. So I won't go too much into it. But number 7 for me is the Bulls dynasty of the 90s. 6 championships in 8 seasons. Here's why. 1, they dominated a decade. Okay, that's cool. Look, the Celtics dominated a decade. Why don't I have them there? Here's the difference. If Michael Jordan doesn't win those 6 championships, if Michael Jordan isn't 6-0 in those championships, we're not having a discussion about Michael Jordan as the GOAT. If he had lost to
we're not having that discussion anyway, Fluent. Just kidding. Okay,
people who know basketball are. If he had lost to Magic, if he had lost to Magic, by the way, who was a 2-time MVP, was second that year, right? So second to Jordan. If he loses that one, we're not having this discussion. If he loses to the Trailblazers, people forget that was their second finals in 3 years, right? They had lost to Detroit, then they missed the finals, and then they played the Bulls. They had playoff finals experience. They could have won that. We're having a different discussion, right? It changes the whole course of history, I think. Obviously, if the Jazz pull off one of the two at the end there, if Seattle had put Gary Payton on Jordan from game 1, you never know. But if, let's say, the Jazz win in 98, right? Because they were the better team in 98 throughout the season. Well, now Jordan's 5-1. It doesn't really have that ring to it anymore. Always 5-1, right? So now you can have now LeBron probably is easily the consensus. Like, let's be honest, still the majority of people have Jordan, but now LeBron is probably clearly the number 1. We're having conversations about Magic and Kobe more because, well, Magic was 5-4 or something like that, I think. Kobe is 5-3. Like, all these other people now become, it's not just this 2-man race. I think it becomes a bigger conversation. Yeah.
And you're saying if it was even like 5-0, it would have.
I think it changes. I think I don't know why.
6.
I don't think it's the 6. I think it's the 2 3-peats.
Okay.
Right? Because
that'll do it.
Yeah, Mike had a 3-peat. Russell had an 8-peat, but everyone kind of eliminates those because of their eras, which they shouldn't, but they do. The Lakers had a 3-peat, but they didn't do it again. Right? The Spurs were never able to even repeat. The Warriors, the Heat, like all those other great teams were never able to 3-peat. So there's some added, I think, oomph because it was 2 separate 3-peats. So that's significant is because I think for him individually, and it's the only time the Bulls ever won. The Bulls have never won before, never won after. Like that's their 10 years. Enjoy it, Chicago Bulls fans. Check out See Red right here on Player's Choice. Number 6. I'm gonna go back a little bit for number 6.
Okay.
In 1936, the Olympics, Jesse Owens, 4 gold medals in Berlin in front of Adolf Hitler, who believed that the Aryan was the supreme race. Talk about kicking some dirt in someone's face. Jesse Owens did that, and well deserved for him. But that was a huge moment in the world in sports. And I think, again, you can't, when you talk about that time, like everybody who kind of has that in their history books, it's the one, I think, sports thing that people are like, oh, and like they added on to World War
to a world war. There's this piece of it too, so it's huge.
That's sick.
Number 5. So this is the one that I think for me really sticks in for me.
Okay.
So in the thumbnail, you probably saw a WWE wrestler, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle. But before he became a WWE wrestler, he was an Olympic wrestler. And in 1996 in Atlanta, he was wrestling and he won a gold medal. Seems pretty, so what, right? Yeah, he did it with a broken neck. And for anyone that's wrestled, or anyone that's actually tried doing anything with a broken anything, so with a broken neck, he wrestled in '96 Olympics and won the gold medal. So for being someone who was watching it, and my family's very big into the Olympics, and so every event is really big. Guy with a broken neck winning a gold medal, like I got to put him on this list. So he's
what's the backstory? Like, well, how did he break his neck before that?
I'm probably in another match in the build up to the match. And just
it was from wrestling, but it was the Olympics, so he's I'll be there no matter what.
It was like he was in a car accident. Yeah. He broke it wrestling and went on to win a gold medal with a broken neck. So as someone who has a broken back, let me tell you, it's very difficult.
You do now?
Yeah. Well, it's
in
never
the past, but it's
in
never
the past,
healed.
but it's never healed. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So trust me,
Wow.
it's hard enough to get up in the morning, let alone wrestle and win a gold medal. So
That's impressive.
so he's on the list for me.
Okay.
Number four. Even if you don't know anything about this sport, even if you know nothing about the significance of what I'm about to say, almost everybody recognizes this, and you're going to probably say you don't and just ruin this whole thing. But down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Like everybody my age knows what that means right away. Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. They were best of friends. They became worst of enemies and never spoke again after, I believe, their 3 matches. But it was dubbed in 1971 the fight of the century. When those two, and they were both undefeated heavyweights, squared off against each other. So that was a huge moment. I had to put Muhammad Ali in there, as you've probably heard on Fluent and Chill, because I've said this before. Got to meet him, got to have a conversation with him. He was a super nice guy. And so had to put Muhammad Ali in there. Plus what he meant, like his significance in the world and all that kind of stuff. But that was at the time huge. Number 3, another huge moment. And some ties to Canada, because he played for the Montreal Expos farm team for a little bit before he got called up to the major leagues to play for the Dodgers in 1947. First year of the NBA, by the way. Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier and being the first major African-American player in Major League Baseball. So that obviously huge story in 1947. Number two, a little Chicago bias here, I'm not going to lie. But let me ask you, it's a baseball story.
Okay.
In 2016, what was a huge Chicago baseball story? Do you know of any in 2016?
Nope. I don't know anything about baseball.
After 108 years, in 2016.
Oh, a certain team won.
The Chicago Cubs finally won a World Series.
Are you a Cubs fan?
I'm
Bandwagon. Okay.
I do like Chicago teams because of my my love affair with the Bears. Yeah. So because of my 2 teams, right? I'm a Bears fan and a Laker fan, which is really weird for people to understand. Mm-hmm. But so I always have like a soft spot for LA teams and Chicago teams, right? They're not. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of them, but I'm always kind of on the side rooting for them. Yeah,
that's huge.
And number 1, 100. Yeah, number one. And the reason this one's number 1, the reason this is number 1, is it wasn't even. It was fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't competitive. But what this did was spark a fire across the world that I think is the reason we're here today. Like, it's the reason we are on like YouTube. It's the reason why Player's Choice exists. It's the reason Luka Doncic is who he is, and Nikola Jokic is who he is, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is who he is, and the reason Team Canada beat USA in the bronze medal game at the FIBA World Championships, it's because of the 92 Dream Team. What the 92 Dream Team did was take basketball, and it was like, hey, we're dominating Team USA. It's college players, but we're dominating them for a nice little stretch there. And then, oh, are you? Well, that's because you're sending your professional players. Well, here, we're going to send ours too. And when you see a team going up against another team and they already know they've lost, they're just like, hey, can we get your autograph? Can we get your picture? Oh my God, I'm on the court with Magic and Bird and Mike. Like that is just tells you. But what it did was, because I know from my relatives that live, like I have relatives who live in like Australia, in Greece, and like all these other places. And they're like, oh yeah, they still talk about the 92 Dream Team. They started playing basketball. Like basketball was a thing, but I mean, it became a thing, right? Like Shaq, like our Shaq, right, is even more popular. His team, Olympiacos in Athens, is huge. Yeah. Part of that is because this 92 Dream Team sparked an interest in basketball globally.
Yeah, worldwide.
And it's interesting because we see like the numbers, like the TV numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but I will do a top 10 list on this eventually. And we see like football. Oh, TV, look how much like football, the worst football game gets the same amount of viewers as the top basketball game on TV. Go look at online searches. And it's the complete opposite. NBA worldwide gets like 2-3 times more the searches and the views and like on YouTube and that sort of thing globally. Right. It is a true global game. And I think this was kind of that. If it wasn't the spark that started the fire, is a whole bunch of gasoline poured on the fire that got it going. And I think that's why the 92 Dream Team is on my list. Okay. So give me your list. Thank you very much. What is your, do you have kind of criteria or?
Well, I sort of did it wrong, so maybe we can just ask the chat. But because I thought, one, I have a really bad memory, but two, a lot of like the greatest things happened before I was ever born. Like I didn't really get to witness them. So I just picked 10 moments that I liked.
Yeah. No, this is why this show.
They're all warriors.
That's okay. This is why this show is so phenomenal, because it's your top 10 list, your criteria, whatever it is. So this is your Warriors top 10 moments.
Mm-hmm. My Warriors. There's a couple others in there too. But I didn't really rank them, but I'll start with 1. The Suns losing to the Dallas Mavericks. That was hilarious because I think it was just the I don't like the Phoenix Suns at all. And I think it was just the built up tension. Like everybody was rooting. And I just, you love an underdog win. So that was 1 for me. Clay's 60 points with 11 dribbles. It's cool because like, if you know Clay, like 11 is it's a common number throughout his life. He was born on 11th Street. That's his number. So just to see him in that moment, especially looking back where we just, he's not the same person anymore. So that was a big one. Kobe's 81. And I wanted to ask you, Fluent, what was where were you when that happened? Were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
You got to go. So how do you cheer? Like, were you cheering for Kobe and the Lakers, or were you cheering for Toronto?
Oh no, when they meet,
it's Lakers.
It's like I've never even been to Toronto. Yeah, I am a Lakers fan through and through. And the funny part is, neither one. I think they were both around 500. They weren't good that season. And I got flipped the tickets. I was living in LA, obviously, and I got flipped the tickets because it was like these two teams, and someone was like, "Hey, Lakers are your favorite team, and you're from Toronto. Do you want to go?" They was kind of like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I'm like, I even went, "Yeah, okay, sure," because it wasn't like a big game. It was like in January or something. I was just like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And I always say like, it wasn't like we, when people say, "Oh, we knew Wilt was going to score his 100. We could tell something special." No, you didn't. Like, we were just like, "Oh, cool. Kobe's having a good night." Yeah, Kobe's having a really good night. Halftime, man. Well, you know what happens? People score 30, 40 points in the first half, and then they finish with 50. So yeah, that's cool. But then he didn't stop scoring. And we're like, 60. Hold on. 7. When he hit 70, that's when you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, where are we going here?
Even we're like,
yeah.
And actually, some of us were like, is he going to go for 100? We're like, no, stop.
Yeah, you're mine. Even though way.
Yeah,
You're like,
even when he got there, got to like 67, and we started scoreboard watching a little bit more, right? We started putting down the beers and started actually watching the game.
Yeah.
It was never never thought he was going to go. And then when he, finished, we were 81. We're like, oh my God, did we just see this? And right away it was the discussions. And that night was actually when I said Wilt didn't score 100. Kobe had the most points in NBA.
Oh my. Well, Wilt scoring 100's on my list, Fluent. Just
okay.
to mess with you. Just because I know we've talked about it so many times, but just the thought of it, I think it was possible. Actually, I was reading some Bleacher Report article today, and I don't even know. It was like somehow I came across it, and it was like, what was the greatest decade of all time? And it said the 60s for some reason, but that's hard to believe looking back and just seeing how the rules have changed and the athleticism and just different levels. But we have no idea. Like, if we could go back to some of these decades and actually see some of the players play, I just think we'd have a lot more respect for it. So I have a lot of respect for Will. I like the guy. I mean, like 100 points, whether it was 99 or maybe, 89, who knows? I think that's still insane and up there with Kobe's. So
it's coming, just so you know, there's going to be a top 10 reasons Wilt didn't score 100 or it was fixed. Or it was fixed.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. At 6, I had to put this in there. KD coming to Golden State. I think of all the trades that were ever made, this is one of the craziest trades that have ever gone down. And especially being a Dubs fan, like just the feeling of it. It was the beginning of a villain story, truly. And he left a franchise that honestly, a lot of people probably would have thought it wouldn't happen. And without KD, I think that Warriors would have still won. No, I'm just kidding. But it made
I know you're not. That's what you believe. It's fun.
It heightened the competitiveness of the entire league to a new level that I think hadn't been seen in a minute. So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. KD goes to the Warriors.
Yeah.
And he is the villain. Draymond, who they said, he called him, he's the villain. Steph never the villain in any of this.
No, Steph's no villain.
Interesting.
Steph's our angel. Steph would never.
All right, keep going.
Okay, you guys in the chat, just let me know what you guys think. Of course, we all know the story of, Steph, like if he was given the choice where he wanted to be drafted, he wanted to be drafted to New York. I think a lot of people would, maybe not currently, but that was just such a beautiful place to play, and a lot of history. So him dropping the 54 points, Madison Square Garden, is definitely up there. I wanted to put all the rings, but for some reason, ring number 4 was just different because I think a lot of like what you said, Fluent, people shut down the dynasty. They said, no way, it's never happening again. And then to get that finals MVP.
I think their first and their last were the most impressive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those are the two without KD. So yeah, but just something about number 4, I don't know. It was really special. At number 2, I had Clay's return after his injuries. So I don't know, for Warriors fans, like those 2 years, it was just really tough to see. And even though you might not think he's going to be able to bounce back the same way, that he played before, and that's to be expected. The fact that he's back and he pushed through all of that, and he was just such a inspiration, right? We like the sport, but we also love the inspiration that comes from all these like men and women that play. So shout out to Clay for that. And then my number 1, I guess, was Steph breaking the 3-point record, having Reggie, Ray, his dad, his mom, like all these, just the entire league, like supporting.
You're happy having Ray there? Ray didn't look happy.
I mean, that's hard to like swallow your pride, right? A record you never thought would get broken, and to break that. I mean, look, what was more what felt more genuine? LeBron breaking his record or Steph breaking his record? Like,
Oh, no one was happy about LeBron.
No, and Kareem was like definitely not happy.
I thought Kareem was going to run out there and try to block the shot.
Yeah. So, sorry guys to water everything down with Warriors, but for me,
no, that's fine. All right. So, okay. So that's, can you actually just, because I'm going to clip it. Can you just run 10 through 1 again?
I don't want to be clipped.
You don't want to be clipped? Okay. No problem.
You read yours.
Get back to reality.
Okay. We'll do mine fast then.
Okay.
All right. So let's go back. We'll recap it so that I can get clipped. Number 10, the miracle on ice. Number 9, the hand of God. Number 8, the Black Sox scandal. Number 7, the Chicago Bulls dynasty of the 90s. Number 6, Jesse Owens, winning 4 gold medals in the 36 Olympics. Number 5, Kurt Angle, winning gold in 96 with a broken neck. Number 4, Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier, the fight of the century. Number 3, Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. Number 2, the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series after 100 plus years. And number 1, the 1992 Dream Team and their global impact on basketball.
Very
All
good.
right, we got a couple-
Solid list. Very solid list. So that's like you touched on everything.
I did take some time with it. I'm not gonna lie. And it was so hard because I started with I just started jotting them down and I got to 30. And then I was like, I looked some up because I was like, I don't want to miss anything. And it was like 40. And I'm like, how do I make this 10? And so I started to okay, Lance Armstrong. I'm like, I don't want to do he was on my top 10 list for drug doping. So okay, I took him off. And then there was other ones. I'm like, all right, this is kind of redundant. Because there was another Muhammad Ali one. So I'm like, let me pick one. Okay, take that one off. There was a couple of more Olympic ones. I'm like, okay, let me take the Olympic ones off. All right, there was this one was 11. It was the last cut was the 99 Team USA women's soccer team winning gold, because that was actually really big for women's soccer, because after that there was actually a stretch where Team USA's women's soccer team was getting more viewership than the men's. And it's like the only time that you'll see a women's sport really getting, maybe tennis, but in a team sport, it's the only one I can think of that would have more viewers than the male team. So that one was big. It just missed the cut. And so like I said, so it was really hard to make some cuts. And this one, so we have some super chats because I'm looking at the time. So let me go through, because this one is there are some other examples here. So Angie Carr, Secretariat destroying the Triple Crown. Yes. Horse. Is horse racing a sport?
I think Jokic would say so. I think so. I mean, let's call it a sport. I mean, anything's a sport. So
That's Jay's.
I think it's a sport.
That's Jay's sound. I told you I didn't have it this week, but he's off this week.
Yeah.
All right, so Secretariat, yes, that was a big one. This was another one, but like I said, there's a lot of Olympic ones.
This would have made my all-time list. Yeah.
8 gold, 7 world records, like him, Usain Bolt. Like there was a lot of Olympic ones.
I was swimming when Michael Phelps was my idol when I was a kid, because I was like in swimming since I was 4. I became a lifeguard. I was young, but yeah, that was a big one for me.
All right. This one, so I got to tell you a story about this one. So Angie Carr said, surprised you didn't put Owen Hart's death up there. Talk about a gut punch. Cubs missed the Back to the Future 2 prediction by a year. Crazy. Have you seen Back to the Future? Do you know this?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know
Back to the Future.
Okay, so 2 cool things about this.
Yeah.
So okay, there is 1 minute left. So I'm going to put the link. We might have time for one person.
Yeah.
Come on and share their story, because we got the
Hunter said, Fluent, can you send me the link?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to send it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me quickly talk about this. So I was watching that pay-per-view. I used to watch every wrestling pay-per-view. And the one where Owen Hart, he comes down as the Blue Blazer, he hits the ring, and we think it's all an act. And then the screen kind of goes black, and we're like, yo, I paid for this pay-per-view. And then you find out later that, well, he died. But they still went on with the show. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, so you have to be quick. I'm going to let you on, Honcho. Go.
What's up, Fluent? One story I want to say is Francis Ngannou's story. Man, that's an inspiring story. Working in the sand mines at the age of 9.
Who? I didn't hear the name. I didn't hear the name.
We came to hear the name.
Francis Ngannou.
I don't know
what
who
did he
that is.
UFC. Well, he was a part of the UFC. Heavyweight champion of the world, gonna fight Fury. Like I said, he worked in the sand mines at 9. He decided to flee Cameroon to a better opportunity at 26, and then in between that year, he spent a year just trying to plot an attempt to cross over to European borders.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. All right. So I'm going to invite everybody that has a greatest story of all time on next week. Unfortunately, I only have an hour. So we're going to leave you with our top 10 salute. Next week's going to be a good one. Dub and Jalen Carter are going to go head to head, picking their top 10 most beautiful women ever. They don't say it as eloquently as I did. They're baddies, but the most beautiful women ever. It'll be Jalen Carter versus Dub. But until next week.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.